The most important work of your life is the work you do within your soul. This is Home Improvement for the Soul.
Hello, and welcome to Home Improvement for the Soul. I'm Maddie Cheers, and thank you for joining us for episode 2. And this week I'd like to talk about the Great Law of Peace. And the reason is that I'm going to refer to that a lot. This is from the Haudenosaunee, or what we usually call the Iroquois Confederacy. It is their entire spiritual, political, social structure in instructions that they believe were given to them from a messenger directly in touch with the Creator, that this messenger was brought here by the Creator. And this message that we're about to learn about, the Great Law of Peace, is actually the underpinning of the U.S. Constitution. Many people don't even know this, but Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin's son, spent a lot of time with the Haudenosaunee. Now, of course, that is very important to those of us who live in the United States, but it is equally important to everybody everywhere, because this message from the Creator is about a type of government that allows everybody to be free. So I'm actually going to sort of start at the beginning of the story, and in this way, I'll be able to connect it to how it relates to each of us. Most great writings, most great wisdom writings, wisdom stories relate to you personally. They have a message for you personally, not just for the society at large. So the Great Law of Peace not only teaches us as a culture, as a group of humans, how to behave in a proper way, how to see that everyone's voice is heard and everyone is treated fairly. It not only gives us the plan for that, but if you look at it closely, it can give you the plan for inner peace. Because without each one having inner peace, there is no outer peace. My peace is your peace is my peace. We all are connected to each other in that way, and that's very much within the teachings. So it starts with something called the original instructions. And the original instructions are to be grateful for what you have and not worried about what you don't have. We talked about gratitude last week as being a pathway to finding peace, to finding who you are, to being calm enough to go into your own soul and listen for the voices from within that guide your life. So gratitude, that's number one. And for them, they have a very long ceremony prayer that they call the Thanksgiving Address, or the Ohendo Galawadeguan in their language, which means that which comes before all else. And it does come before all else. Traditional people do it every morning. They do it before their government sessions to make sure that everybody is in the good mind, the right state of mind to make a decision. They don't believe in good and evil the way that we do. And actually, when I say they, I really am a follower of this belief. Though they do not adopt people, I really do believe that this message of the great peacemaker, this great law of peace, is the message that can bring peace to the world. So when they say that people have either the good mind or the quick mind, the good mind is grateful. The good mind follows the second instruction, which is to treat each other and all of nature with kindness and respect. And extrapolate from that you are treating yourself with kindness and respect. You cannot treat others that way if you cannot find that for yourself. True? And then their last instruction, which is more difficult to understand, is to live in clans. Clans are groups of related families. Now, the clan system has two major components to it. One is that you are growing up in a loving community. You're growing up with your family. You are growing up with your immediate family. You are growing up with your first cousin's family, your second cousin's family, your third cousin's family. Everybody in your clan lives in a village or several villages, but they are closely related to each other. So let's say you're in the Bear Clan. You cannot marry in the Bear Clan. You would have to marry into one of the other 8 clans. Let's say Turtle Clan. And that is a way of keeping track of how to have healthy children. We all know you can't marry anybody you're too closely related to. The children could have health problems. If you keep everything in clans, and they have 9 of them, then we can keep track of who can marry whom. So that way, you follow the lineage of the mother. So they are a matrilineal society. So they follow the lineage of the mother. If I was your grandmother, then I'm Bear Clan. Your mother's Bear Clan. If you're our children, then you are all Bear Clan. Your father comes from a different clan, but he comes to live in his wife's longhouse. He lives with her family. And we're going to talk more about the implications of that as we go on with this podcast, because I will refer, as I said, to the Great Law of Peace and the teachings very often. So, but think about that. Think about that, about being a young boy growing up in a situation where women are treated with respect and have authority. That's what you're seeing in front of you. That's what you're living. That's how you're taught to live. So the clan system is very important, and it is very, very psychically important to all of us to think about what type of community are we creating and what do we want to grow up with? How do we want to raise our children? So you've got the idea of gratitude, you've got kindness, you've got respect to yourself and others and the natural world, and you've got growing up in a loving community. Pretty good guidance for how to have a happy life anywhere in the world, true? But then, for them, things broke down. It turned to war as soon as they forgot about gratitude. The Thanksgiving address went out of the window. All the other 3 ceremonies went out. And so people went to war. There was great conflict. Now, that makes sense. And certainly, if you are living a life where you are not grateful, then there's conflict within yourself. There's anger all the time. We talked about that in the last podcast. So when I turn to the Great Law of Peace and I reference this, it is because it is my true belief that these teachings need to be brought back to life. They need to be shared with everyone. And for those of you who may think it is not proper for those of us who were not raised in this to share that, I am going to tell you what Tom Porter, Mohawk spiritual leader, told me. First, he was very happy that I was spreading this word around in schools and to anybody I could mention it to. Second, he was once confronted with somebody in his own nation. He is Bear Clan Mohawk, and he was confronted by a young person who said, "Why are you sharing all our teachings and all our secrets with everybody?" And his response was the best I have ever heard. He said, "Did the Creator make the sky just for the Mohawk? Did the Creator make the water just for the Mohawk? Did the Creator make the earth just for the Mohawk?" So I think you can see that these teachings, these spiritual teachings that I will refer to, are universal. They are universal medicine. They are universal instructions for all human beings. And like we talked about a little bit last week, every culture has these messages, every single one. So when we are looking at how do we find that inner peace, how do we keep from falling into conflict? Step 1 is gratitude. If you're grateful for what you have and not worried about what you don't have, it doesn't mean you won't be more ambitious to get more out of your life. Hopefully, what it means is you will be more ambitious in the correct way. If I am grateful for everything that exists and everything I've been given, I am closer to the Creator, which is really the point of the Thanksgiving address. When it goes through all the categories, it goes through everything in the natural world. It's sometimes referred to as the greetings to the natural world, because you start with all the people. And we start with us, not because we're the best, but because we are the only ones that forget on the whole planet. Humans, the only ones that forget stuff. We forget to use that good mind, and we turn to the quick mind. I want it now, I want it now, I want it now, right? And so our decisions become, well, let's go to war. It's not fair how those guys are treating us. They're making me jealous. They're making me upset. They're taking our stuff. Let's go take it back. So you get into that revenge mentality, and poof, Everything is destroyed. If you're looking inside yourself and you have conflict in yourself and you're angry at yourself, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, oh no, what's wrong with me? From that place, you cannot make a decision, and from that place, you cannot hear your own soul. So when you're looking at a way for inner peace, you start with gratitude. So when we look at all the categories, the basic categories in the Thanksgiving address, and I've heard Mr. Porter do this for 3 hours sometimes, but the basic things to look at are to be grateful to the people around you and yourself, to be grateful for the Mother Earth on which we live, to be grateful for the waters that we all need to survive, to be grateful for the plants that gave us the air that every living creature needs to survive, to look at being grateful to the human beings that know how to keep the plants and give us nutritions, to be grateful to everything, to be grateful to all of the little earth keepers, even the bugs, even the bees, all the things that frighten us, but that take care of the earth so we have a earth. To be grateful to the four-legged creatures, to the trees, to the wind, to the birds, to the sun, the moon, the stars, the air that we breathe, the incredible thunder beings, those thunderstorms that make the world renew, that give us the water that we need for life. To look at everything, to look at our oldest ancestors, the stars, and know that we are stardust. That's where we came from. Like Joni Mitchell said, we are stardust and we are golden. To look at what they call the 4 sacred powers of the universe, these 4 mysterious beings that manifest here as the enlightened teachers. When you look at all the teachings of all the enlightened teachers, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whether you're looking at the great peacemaker of the Haudenosaunee, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, when you look at all of these enlightened teachers, Hildegard of Bingen, Saint Teresa, Mother Teresa, when you look at all of these enlightened teachers, what are they teaching? They are teaching to go towards peace and love. And they all have a method, but here in this very simple method, this very beautiful story of how we lose our way by forgetting gratitude, forgetting respect, forgetting kindness, forgetting to live in clans and live in loving, happy communities. When we lose our way and we forget all of that, the Creator sends us these brilliant, enlightened teachers who are there to remind us. So one of the best things you can do, no matter what religion or spiritual belief you may subscribe to, or even if you subscribe to none, even if you are an atheist, one of the best things you can do is look to the wisdom teachings of the great teachers. There are great philosophers. There are great teachers around today. Look at Ken Wilber's work on integral thinking. Look at Greg Braden's work. Look at many, 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 many enlightened teachers are here. And a lot of them are talking to us about connecting science and spirituality, about looking at where these things we have in the material world, where does this connect? And what happens to us when we think it's only about the material world? It's only about what we can see, touch, hear, feel, smell. When we do that, that's when we lose touch with each other. Because we start thinking that, oh, well, the body and the mind and the heart spirit are separate things. We are 3 separate components. And really, if we just look at the material, it's really only the body and the mind, except it isn't. Except that we now know. Go start reading the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. Look at that. Now we know that it is all one thing. I was once taking a course with a Cherokee elder, and he put on the board body, mind, spirit. Body on top, mind second, spirit there. And he said, that's how Western culture looks at human beings. He goes, it's not at all like that. That's not how we Cherokee look at it. And he drew a circle around each, and he interlocked the circles. And he said, this is closer to how we know things are. This is closer to how we are experiencing our existence here, our life here. And then he said, really, it's not interlocking circles, though. It's really one circle. Body, mind, spirit. You are all one thing. And if any of those three is out of balance, it is very difficult for you to find your way and to hear that inner voice. So when we talked last week about breathing in, concentrating on the breath in, and then breathing out. That simple act of breathing in for 5 counts, holding for 1, breathing out for 7 counts, that will biologically, body-wise, calm you down. And then, if we're thinking about being grateful to the very air that we breathe, and we think about that being shared, if we think about being grateful to the 4 winds that spread that air all over the world, if we think about being grateful to the natural world, if we keep our focus on the teachings from nature, we cannot go wrong. Because when our focus is on the teachings from nature, that connects with our soul. That is the connection to spirit. When we see that the predators do not take more than they need, then we say, oh, I shouldn't take more than I'm a hunter. Eyes in front, meant to hunt. Eyes on side, meant to hide. I come from hunters. You come from hunters. We all come from hunters. But to keep that balance, we look at the predators, we look at the mountain lion, and we see, oh, it never takes more than it needs. We see that the mountain lion only gets into a fight with another mountain lion when they cross each other's territory. This is a teaching from the Great Law of Peace. So what does the mountain lion teach us? Don't cross each other's territory. Don't go somewhere without permission. Don't go anywhere without respect. And it teaches us that as long as we don't take more than we need, there is enough for everybody. Nature is our teacher. She's our oldest teacher. So when we look to nature, we cannot go wrong, but we have to really look at her. So this is why if you don't have to know, let me say this, the exact order of the Thanksgiving address, but you do have to find that time, I do believe, every day. And even if you live in a city, even if you can't see a single tree, even if all you have is a fake plant to remind you of nature, sit there, look at that, and appreciate that that green thing gives us the air that we breathe. The trees and the plants give us the air that we breathe. The thunderers, the thunder beings, as the Iroquois call them, or the thunderstorm, teaches us about renewing and refreshing the waters that give all creatures life, all plants life here on earth. There is nothing we cannot learn by watching nature. And I will tell you, I was once listening to an elder, Michael McDonald, who is Mohawk, and I believe Bear Clan too, but I hope I have that right. It's been a long time since I've seen Mr. McDonald. But he was talking to a group of children, and he said, we don't need a book to tell us how we should behave or to tell us how to live. We have nature. And nature is the only thing we know the Creator put here. And Kabbalah says the same thing. So many teachings. But we live in a more modern world. We live as descendants of a Western culture, so books are important. You know, I love books. Books are very, very important. So if you need some guidance, find one. I'll tell you, if you want to learn from the horse's mouth about, as they say, about the Great Law of Peace, check out Tom Porter's book that he himself wrote and Grandma said. Because that book is his lectures on the Great Law of Peace, his speeches on the Great Law of Peace, exactly verbatim the way he gave them. So he always talked about it, how it was his grandmother that taught him. And what a great lesson for all of us. In the old days, the grandparents were the teachers. And we're going to talk about that in a few episodes when we talk about education and what we should be doing now in terms of education. So, I hope I've given you something to think about and books to look for and things to be grateful for. And we'll learn more about the Great Law of Peace as we go along, because if I were going to tell you the whole thing, it would take 10 days. We don't have 10 days, and I don't know the whole thing. But I am going to keep introducing segments of it. So I want to read you a very recent poem, just from a couple of weeks ago, that I actually did for the very first time. I used my little... I have arthritis in my right hand. It's getting a little bit difficult to write for a long time. So I thought I'd try drawing, because I usually draw a picture and then the poem comes to me on my iPad. And it worked pretty well. So here's the poem. From the heart of darkness still, a burgeoning light reveals its will. A will to see the all of all. A will to know Creator's call. Returning to a time and place with endless knowledge, endless grace, a time of knowing deep within that there is only one true sin, the sin of missing who you are, distracted by a fleeting star. The lasting lies within the dark, the knowing sets you on your part, to bring the light and dawn the day when each one soul comes out to play, to live within a world renewed, to see the life that's been eschewed. This knowing of the darkest kind exists within your heart and mine. When bursting forth it looks like light. Commit to this with inner sight. This courage that is needed now releases you from all the vows to be like others, march in step, and never more to be inept, and never more to hem and doubt that this is what you're all about. In quietude you see your light, returning from its outward flight, and nestling in your wounded heart, it shines and heals every part, and brings together in your soul the very things that make us whole. For each of us is guided here by love and light, not hate or fear. It's all in the remembering that we were born to truly sing of all the wistful days that brought about Creator's ways. Returning to a soul of peace, it is the time to seek release. Release this fear, return of light. This is the way that we take flight. Returning and reburning here, we cast our lies, we truly hear. Beyond the solid, simple voice, in the knowing, it's your choice. And so we choose to share with you the truth you need to make it through this troubled times of giving birth to newer ways upon this earth. Your struggles never done in vain, as long as in love you remain. The moment you step far outside, you lose the light and need to hide. But knowing courage, knowing faith is where you see the garden gate. Step through and find the answer there. To who you are and how you care. For all the others blind with fear, it is your course to do you here. Returning and reburning here, we cast out lies, we truly hear. So, beautiful, a lot to think about. I hope you join us next week. We have a special guest, Marianne Francisi, brilliant creative arts therapist, author, spiritual leader from a long tradition of Italian stregas, and I am very, very excited about her being here with us. Also one of my dearest, dearest friends. Such a privilege and an honor to know her. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful and wonderful and grateful week.
Thank you for joining us for Home Improvement for the Soul. If you'd like more information, please go to womensoneness.com or maddiecheers.com. That's womensoneness.com or maddiecheers.com. See you on the next episode.